Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
Okay, the Vikings finished their preseason schedule last night. Mackey and Judd with a Saturday morning live episode here of Purple Daily. And we're going to talk about Max Brosmer to start the show here because it's possible he not only solidified a spot on the 53, did he solidify a spot as QB2 last night, Judd? And we'll get to that and a bunch of other things that matter from last night's preseason loss to the Titans. The loss doesn't really matter, but certain things within the game definitely matter. MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning matters. We appreciate their support on Purple Daily, Judd.
Yep. And guess what? In this great state today, I wake up and it's autumn. It's fall.
It's
you know what? This means that your house can be very confused. One day it's the AC. The next day it's not the heat yet, but it's getting close. And so you got to ask yourself, is my AC, is my HVAC, is my heat, I hate to say it, folks, but it's true, are they all at tip-top shape? And guess what? If you have any questions about it, MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air can take care of those. How do I know? Because I've used them, and they do fantastic work. Fast, efficient, friendly. And here's the nice thing, too. They've been in our community for more than 100 years, serving countless homes and businesses. So give them a call, 651-615-4292. Or check out their website, callmsp.com. Call msp.com. They are a lock to be your QB1. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, let's get right into it here. So Max Brosmer last night, he played the bulk of the game at quarterback for the Vikings. Obviously, J.J. McCarthy was not scheduled to play. Sam Howell did not play, despite being sort of, at least we think from everything that we've observed you at training camp every day, that he's not necessarily a lock to be on this roster either. And for him to not play in the third preseason game means that they've seen enough of him, either for good or bad. Yeah. And so it was basically Brosmer and Brett Rippon, with Brosmer getting 23 pass attempts, Rippon with 14. And Brosmer goes 15 of 23 for $161. It should have been 16 for 23 for about 201, if not for the missed connection, or the drop, if you will, on that 40-yard bomb on fourth down, which we could talk about. But 7 yards per attempt, a touchdown, a 100.1 passer rating. The eye test looked great at times. He took no sacks, which, again, you're facing like backups and stuff, but you also have backups for your offensive line.
They started the starters, though. A bunch of the starters
they started there.
So
Jeffrey Simmons was out there for the first drive.
Yeah, so he actually did have some, and I guess that's a credit to the line as well. We should not forget them, but yeah, he actually started against a good team. I mean, he just looked great. He looked decisive again. You're right, the Dante Fleming, and I'm not saying, look, he dropped the ball in trying to corral it as he hit the turf, so I'm not going to say that that's an easy catch, but that's a fourth down throw from the Tennessee 43 that was beautiful. Like that ball, if you make a 53, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, hopefully Jalen Naylor, Adam Thielen perhaps, all probably catch that ball.
Yeah, that was a dot, and it was. I wish we could. I'd love to go back. I saw the replay. I have not gone and fired up the all 22 of that catch yet, or the misconnection. But it's fourth down. By the way, nice play just to get it to a 4th and 4, if I remember, because it was like a 3rd and 15 or 3rd and 17 or something. And he finds an outlet, and they grind out like 10 or 11 of those yards to get it. Okay, we're in kind of that green go for it area. And the way that Brosmer, before the ball was snapped even, was directing traffic at the line of scrimmage. He saw whatever the look was, like, okay, this, bang, bang, communicating with his offensive line, ball snapped. And if you watch that play again, he gets back to the top of his drop quickly. It was like he knew they were sending the house.
Yeah.
And he goes, it wasn't like he dropped back kind of at tempo pace. It was, I know they're coming. Boom, boom, boom. Get to the back of my drop and throw this dot 40 yards down the field. And yeah, if it was Addison or Jefferson, a top NFL receiver probably corrals that ball 8 times out of 10, and you've got a big time strike there. But so 2-part question. Do you think Max Brosmer, body of work and last night, has done enough to be on the 53, which I think the answer is yes? But more importantly, to be QB2 behind J.J. McCarthy as an undrafted free agent rookie.
Well, yeah, the first question is yes, the first part of the question. The second part is I think it's in flux. I think he has the roster made, so I think he's a 53. But the reality is I don't know that they've decided, unless they are far more sold on Sam Howell than the signals indicate. I don't know they've decided on QB2. And I think they probably will have a conversation about Max Brosmer as QB2. There's a lot to be said about that's a lot to ask if McCarthy gets hurt, and unfortunately he missed an entire season because he was hurt, so you can't assume he won't. I don't know. I found it very interesting that the telecast last night, which was a CBS telecast, three-man booth, parroted sort of what we've been talking about, but I think they have sources. So just to take you behind the curtain a bit, when those guys obviously do not cover the Vikings. They cover the game of the teams that they're in. So they read up on stuff, but more importantly, they also have what they call production meetings with the head coach, with players, and they get to ask questions. And Kevin O'Connell, I think in a non on the record setting, can be pretty much an open book about some things. And their discussion about Howell and saying what we've talked about, which is, a year ago, Nick Mullins didn't play in preseason game 3 as the backup. They started Jaron Hall, and that was because they basically knew what the dude could do. He had been around for a while. He was going to make the roster. Mm-hmm. Their conversation in the telecast last night, which was very much of, it's interesting Howell's not playing, and, we don't know exactly what's going to take place there, and started to speculate about if QB2 is on the roster. I don't think that came from a place of like, hey, let's just guess on this. I think it came from talking to people like O'Connell. So
yeah,
I think Sam Howell's status on the roster is very much in flux. But let me say this: I don't think it's an automatic that Brosmer's just going to be given the number 2 job either.
Yeah, it was. You're right. It was because this is just it's a third preseason game. It's kind of a warm up game for this CBS crew too. Yeah. And they're not. You were at every training camp. Did you see who were the two guys? It was Charles Davis,
Jason McCourty,
And they weren't at Vikings practice, obviously.
Jason McCourty does the Patriots preseason games. I did not see him at the practices. He obviously called the game or was in the booth for the preseason, the local telecast in Boston. But yeah, this is not like they've been mining their sources all camp. Yeah. How's Sam Howell doing?
They even, if I remember right, I think they even had a graphic up at one point with the word struggling, or they showed a split screen of Sam. I just remember I made a note in my preseason game 3 notes that it was either said by one of the color commentators, or it was a word that they put on the screen for a graphic that Sam Howell was struggling throughout the offseason. Mm-hmm. Yes. Which is true, but it's not normally something you would bring up as kind of a passing through third preseason game unless somebody in that production meeting, Kevin O'Connell, or unless Sam Howell said it himself, I've been kind of struggling, but I don't think they sat down with Sam Howell. So, right. Yeah, if you put the pieces together, it's pretty obvious that they got some intel from the coaching staff in the lead up to the game that Sam Howell was not a lock to make the team. And again, if you add the pieces up, going back to minicamp and OTAs, he hasn't played well enough to where you'd feel like going into the third preseason game, he's got a firm grasp on these things. We trust him to operate this if J.J. McCarthy goes down. So let's not risk injury in the third preseason game.
Right.
It really felt like, all right, we've seen him for 4 months. We kind of know.
Yep.
And we'd like to see a little more of Max Brosmer because he's been super impressive. Let's throw him into the fire and see what happens in basically a full preseason game. And he handled it.
And that's why I think that there is a possibility that the discussion this weekend could be on Brosmer being the 2. I do not think that's a slam dunk. But the 2 guys who didn't play, who I thought it was more potentially damning than it was a positive for their veteran status, was Sam Howell and Ty Chandler. Ty Chandler didn't play as well. He's played here 4 years. They know exactly what he can and can't do, but that might be part of the problem. So those were 2 guys who didn't play, and I'm like, if I was them, I'm not sure I'd want the night off. And yeah, the whole thing with the backup quarterback I think is going to be really interesting to watch play out in the coming days. It's funny too because the CBS guys immediately had like a list of, hey, who could they go get? And again, that's pretty nuanced. It's not like the names that they brought up excited you, but I do think that it shows that the door is open, that the Vikings are probably investigating their opportunities. Because I'm also going to take a wild guess that the announcers talked to O'Connell and probably Kwesi as well.
Yeah.
Who, again, off the record, is going to tell you far more than if you sit down on a camera.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's come back to the running back thing in a second because Xavier Scott popped on a play that was noteworthy. But to me, I go back to, just to put a bow on the Brosmer stuff, I go back to, and I know it's a preseason game and whatever, like you did face the first team defense early, but you're facing a lot of guys that might not be NFL players. So all of that said, the most impressive stat or thing from his performance was the 0 sacks last night. And that's been the biggest problem for Sam Howell's entire career. If you're comparing those guys for QB2, Sam Howell takes a sack on 10% of his career dropbacks, which is right there among the worst for any starting quarterback that's played a handful of games the last 3 years. He is a drive killer because he either holds onto the ball too long or doesn't process fast enough or makes a bad decision to bail out, like the YOLO throw. That was a 3-part failure. It was hanging onto the ball too long, and then it was bailing out the wrong direction where there's an edge rusher in your face, and then it was, oh my God, I'm panicking to throw the football. The fact that Brosmer plays for basically 3 hours, doesn't take a sack, I think is meaningful. It's in his head, tempo, get the ball out, make a decision. He's pretty athletic too. He's certainly not going to be Jaden Daniels or even I don't even think he's necessarily JJ McCarthy athletic, but there was a few times where he was able to scoot out, buy himself some time to either throw the ball away, or make a completion, or just not take a sack.
I think what he might lack in talent, in physical gifts, he makes up for in spades and smarts. Like, he's a guy that walks to the line of scrimmage, to go back to that 4th down play. He deduces what's going on. He can slide protections. And then more importantly, he's like, they're going to bring the house. What am I going to do? I'm going to drop back. He made that play look seamless. See, that's the thing is, watch Howell. And Howell does make some decent throws. So I'm not saying he's a disaster constantly. But watch Howell when things don't go well. And watch Brosmer. And you understand, like, how much of this is mental. Like, that position is so much about your capacity. And that's the thing, too, is I'm sure in college, I mean, Sam Howell, at the end of the day, is the more talented physical quarterback than Brosmer, probably. So in college, he's going to win because it's college and guys are good, but they're not great. Well, now you're at a place where these guys do this for a living and they're grown-ass men. And you better be prepared to know exactly what you're going to do with the football. We probably across the board do not appreciate in sports how much guys who are good because they've got a plan and they know exactly what they're going to do, as opposed to, like, the freelance plays are fun to watch, but if that's your whole life, especially quarterback, you're going to be in big trouble.
Exactly. Like, Caleb Williams is a great freelancer, right? And then everyone was all excited 2 preseason games ago. Well, guess what happens in the 3rd preseason game? He gets a little freelancy and looks terrible again. So freelancing should only, if you are a top athlete, you are Lamar Jackson or prime Brett Favre, and you really know what you're doing as a freelancer, have at it. But the majority of success at quarterback is not freelancing. It's not Fran Tarkenton running around in the 70s for a half hour while, these off-season job defensive players chasing. The ball has to be out, and Max Brosmer has been really good at that throughout the entire summer.
It's funny, too, because I think we think when we watch him, Jaden Daniels, freelances. But you go back and look at what that guy has done to work on, like, all of his, like, he makes it, he fools you. You think, oh, man, he run and gun, he's just freelancing, and he's not. So, like, that's the difference, too. He is a man with a plan. And does his athletic ability, his legs help? Absolutely. But it's partially in large part because this guy's worked his ass off behind the scenes to also have a very good idea that when he sees something, he knows exactly how to react to it.
Yeah. So final predictions here. I think we both kind of agree that Brosmer's on the 53, and there's probably another quarterback maybe a QB2 that isn't on the roster right now, that they're going to be working the phones and the waiver wires and the trade conversations.
Yeah.
I guess my final prediction is I think Howell gets cut. And if it's not right at the 53-man cut, maybe it's a few days later. I could see that happening.
Yeah, that's what I was
and I think this is probably the end of the road for Brett Rippon in the Viking system anyways.
He's a practice squad guy here. He needs to, if he loves football, he needs to be apprenticing, which I think he sort of is, to be a coach. Like, there's nothing there. Like, when you watch him, I think he knows what he wants to do, but there's nothing there. So do you want to be, I guess here's the question, and the answer because of the paycheck might be yes. Do you want to pull the Sean Mannion and bounce around and pull some paychecks as long as you can and then go into coaching? That might be yes. But I'm going to tell you right now, the Vikings practice squad for him would not be a terrible place. Yeah. This is a good building for a quarterback to be in.
Yeah, and Kevin O'Connell likes him. He has a knowledge of the system. And because you have the luxury of kind of the veteran practice squad slots now that you didn't have like 10 years ago, you could have a knowledgeable guy in the room to help not only McCarthy, but if Brosmer is going to be in that room, he also is.
Absolutely. He's
greener than McCarthy. He's older than McCarthy, but in terms of like being on an NFL team, McCarthy's got another year in those rooms on Max Brosmer.
If they come out on Tuesday and say, okay, JJ McCarthy's our starter, and Max Brosmer's our 2, and they cut Howell, what is your reaction if they do make him the 2?
And like Rippon's the 3, or they find a different 3?
Or they find a different 3. I mean...
Well, on one hand, I know I said yesterday at the State Fair, because everyone's just like chugging Max Brosmer Kool-Aid here, and I am too. I mean, I had season tickets to watch the guy last year at Huntington Bank Stadium, so like, I'm all in.
Yep.
But... somebody asked, or I think was it you or somebody from the audience asked, if you had to put Brosmer or Howell in a regular season game with the first team offense, who performs better? And like emotionally, we all want to say Brosmer because he's had a better camp and whatever. But for all of Howell's flaws, Howell has still at least performed at a high level at times in the NFL. Like the guy still threw for 4,000 yards in 2023. And he threw for 21 touchdowns and completed 63% of his passes with kind of a bad coaching staff and Washington had not turned the corner yet. Now, he also led the league with 21 interceptions. So a part of me is still thinking, all right, he's operated a full season as a starter and showed some flashes in addition to some of the bad stuff. So I think he's probably gone because I don't think he's picked up this system the way that they wanted. But I still feel like you need a QB2 above Max Brosmer.
Agreed with that.
I think it would be a little irresponsible to just throw him in as QB2, even if you love the work that he's put in this summer. Just putting him in that spot feels a little irresponsible.
So I think this weekend they're looking for a wide receiver or 2. Again, a punt returner possibly. I think they're looking for a backup quarterback. And... We can talk about it too. I didn't come away from that game really enthused about the backup cornerbacks either. So I'm a little bit leery of not adding a veteran.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's get into some of the non-quarterback stuff from the game last night and just the kind of the fringes of the 53-man roster here. After we shout out Padres. In fact, you were hanging out with the Padres guys at O'Gara's at the fair a couple days ago.
Yep, that is exactly right. In fact, they're delicious. I've been talking about this beer for a long time now because it's so good. Their delicious Red Chimney is at O'Gara's throughout the State Fair. Of course, O'Gara's is just inside the gate off of Snelling there. Why is Padres Brewing? Why is their beer good? I'm going to tell you right now. Sports Dad, it's very simple. It's because they make beer that tastes like beer. What they are is a local craft brewery recreating Irish and UK classics as well as some innovative craft beers. The Red Chimney, fantastic. Patty's Premium is great on a nice hot day, a session beer, so it does not fill you up too much. What they do is they use imported Irish and British grain, yeast, and hops to develop their beers, which are now available in more than 200 liquor stores in the metro area, as well as Rochester and Mankato. Find them on Facebook or Instagram, or check out their website, padregs.com, Padraigs.com. is what you want to check out, but it is a delicious beer.
Speaking of the Irish, the Irish. So I just opened up the Prize Picks app here, and there's a Dublin game happening in like 2.5 hours.
Oh, yeah.
To kick off the college football season.
Yes, sir.
Iowa State and Kansas State.
We're going a long way for an old Big 12 showdown, aren't we?
I know. And you can open up right now. I'll show you guys for the YouTube audience. You can open up the old Prize Picks app here. And if you want to KSU quarterback Avery Johnson, actually, this is basically a free square. 0.5 pass yards. You select more on that, and then you go and choose your others for that game or other games. And Prize Picks is great. It's the best way to win real money this football season. You select between 2 and 6 players. It takes less than 60 seconds, and you pick more or less on their projected stats, and you place your entry, and you have fun. Not just football, by the way. You can take something football. You got golf going on this weekend, baseball, and you can cross over different sports with your selection. So download the Prize Picks app today and use the code PURPLEDAILY, and you get $50 in lineups when you play just $5. Plus, you support the show by doing this too. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code PURPLEDAILY and get $50 in lineups when you play just $5. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, other things that stood out to you from the third preseason game, Joe. Well, let's touch on the running back thing. Xavier Scott was out there for a pretty large chunk of that game. He winds up with 5 carries for 28 yards, and he caught the one pass for 6 yards. That 23-yard gain he had, where he kind of slithered through the left side of the defense and broke a tackle or two. Yep. He was all fired up. There was a nice chunk run in there, an explosive run of 23 yards that was really impressive.
Yeah, the thing I liked about that run, too, is that was not just a run predicated on running the football. It was predicated on he waited for the block, he slithered through, and in fact, they talked about that. I think Charles Davis did on the telecast. Now, he got banged up at some point in the game as well, but if I had to guess, if he's healthy, he stays and Chandler goes. I just think he can do more. I think he can do more. He spent 2023 on the Colts practice squad, 2024 on the Vikings practice squad. He's clearly learned a lot. And, with that position, you want a guy that can contribute in specific areas, right? Who can catch screen passes. He can do that. Who can block. I don't know if he's great, but he's certainly, I think, more reliable than Chandler. Like, the Vikings have their sort of bell cow guys. Mm-hmm. And by the way, as far as I know, they're both pretty proficient. Aaron Jones, certainly, at all facets. But I think Xavier Scott's the type of guy that you want on a winning team because he brings intangibles. If he has to play, here's the thing. If he has to play, you're not going to get, I don't think, a 12-yard run followed by a sack because he didn't know who to block. So yeah. I think Xavier Scott makes the team. I think Ty Chandler is the latest member of the 2022 draft class to be jettisoned by the Vikings.
So, okay, let's actually go down that rabbit hole for a second here. So the 2022 draft class continues to just be one of the worst in team history, and Asamoah's already gone a couple weeks ago, and Ty Chandler looks like he's going to be gone.
Asamoah was with the Titans last night.
That's right.
He made a play.
That's right. He was with the Titans last night. So how much, when you're weighing the Vikings whiffing on some of these picks versus identifying some of these really good undrafted guys, Ivan Pace, Jalen Redmond, Levi Drake Rodriguez, who knifed through for a great sack last night. Yep. That guy is explosive up the middle as a defensive tackle.
Yep.
And a bunch of other names that were like Zemiah Vaughn. So how do you weigh the whiffs in the draft versus how great the Vikings have been at identifying some undrafted free agent guys, either on their own or from like other teams off the waiver wire?
Well, I mean, obviously the 22 draft class is a disaster and that there were mistakes made, but I think we have to start to look at like now what's the progression of the 23 class? What's the progression of the 24 class? I'm not giving Kwesi and company a complete pass on 22, but there are now more recent versions. And look, I mean, the 22 draft class being a bust, it's a problem because part of the reason why you are so far over the cap for 2026 now is you had to go assign veteran guys to sort of replace guys who should have been graduating into key roles right now. So I'm not excusing it. I do think that it is a good conversation, though, that the Vikings have hit on a lot of undrafted guys. I mean, that can't just be dismissed as it's not a fluke. They pay guys, they clearly identify them. So I think that helps. It certainly doesn't make it okay that 22 was a bust, but I also think that we need to start to look pretty heavily at 23, 24, and eventually 25 as well, because it's one thing to have one terrible draft class. It's another to compound it by you continue to make the same mistakes.
I just pulled up and by the way, a tease for Monday at the Minnesota State Fair. Judd's final 53-man roster projection will happen in front of the live raucous audience at the Score North podcast booth, the Minnesota Rusco Score North podcast booth.
Yep. I might be booed. You never know.
You think they're going to boo some of your fringe roster decisions?
Well, certainly. I mean, if it's like the comments here, I mean, these people are ruthless. I love it. Passion. You got a lot of passion.
What are they ripping you for?
They're fighting about no. They're internally debating Howell, and there are some.
And Levi Drake Rodriguez was a 7th round pick, right? Okay. So he was a draft pick. That's my bad.
Yeah, he was a 7th round pick.
Put some respect on Kwesi's drafting. But just looking through your 53 here in terms of like recent undrafted free agent guys that you have on the roster. Max Brosmer, Xavier Scott, potentially like a Lucky Jackson. There's a couple undrafted wide receivers that are in play. You've got Urosek, undrafted tight end, making the team. There's a couple undrafted offensive linemen that are like Joe Huber is probably the 10th guy right now if they keep 10 offensive linemen.
Very much vying, yes.
And Logan Brown was at right tackle the entire night last night, and it was very clean. There was a play. I don't think Logan's making the 53, but there was a play. Logan Brown winds up so the Titans run a twist on like a 3rd down, and it wound up being a big completion down the left sideline. Was it it was one of the Brosmer completions. The Brosmer completion, there was another one down the left sideline where he threw a missile to who the hell
Fleming?
Was it? Fleming.
Yeah.
Just a missile. That was a big boy NFL throw right there into a window.
I think Dante Fleming, so he did drop the ball that he couldn't complete the catch on, but I think he also, if you look in the 3rd quarter, had 2 significant catches too. And yeah, Brosmer made some nice throws, like on time, but also just nice athletic throws.
Yes, but there was a play where Logan Brown. So the initial penetrator on the stunt, who's trying to go into the inside shoulder to create space for the looper to come around.
Yep.
And Logan Brown pancakes the initial penetrator, stays up on his feet, and then picks up the twist around the edge and opens up for a third. But like that's a talented dude that's not going to make the 53 undrafted free agent that they identified. Jalen Redmond, we already mentioned. He's a lock at this point. Gabe Murphy and Bo Richter, undrafted free agents the last 2 years. Ivan Pace, we've seen the impact the last couple of years. And then you have them with Dwight McLaughlin and with Zemiah Vaughn having 2 cornerbacks undrafted. And maybe even like a Halasi at safety. So, yeah, they deserve major credit for just working that part of the system, but it would be really helpful if even 2 or 3 of these dudes from the last few years' drafts, if you had a cornerback or Lewis Seen, your 1st rounder.
Yeah, because a guy like Andrew Booth needs to pan out.
Yeah.
Like, that's a high draft pick cornerback. Now, after watching it last night, though, because those backup cornerbacks played a ton, I mean, I do have questions. I like Vaughn, but he's pretty raw right now. Was it Van Jefferson who, I mean, basically, Zemiah Vaughn's cleats are still sitting on the turf in the stadium because he got just absolutely deked out, frozen. I don't know what you call it, but he fell down essentially. Mekhi Blackman clearly has not done that much. He took a holding penalty, which was ill-timed because I think it was going to be 4th down on the Titans, and instead it was a 1st down because of a hold, which really wasn't necessary. So I do have some major question marks. Again, if Okudah doesn't work or somebody, including Okudah, gets hurt, do I want any of those 3 immediately graduating to essentially a starting role? I don't know about that.
Yeah, it's thin.
It feels iffy.
It is thin. Miles Price had another big punt return early that was called back due to a penalty.
Yeah.
And then he almost muffed a punt at one point in the game. Do you have any other sort of strong opinion on Miles Price at this point as a fringe 53? They are giving him some run as a punt returner, and they need to fill that spot.
Well, it's funny, too, because he is a wide receiver, and he has no chance of, like, he is not vying for, there is no competition. He's not trying to make the team as a receiver. He's literally trying to make it as a return guy. And he's also gotten some work on kick returns of late. Now, it's important to point out Ty Felton didn't play last night because he got banged up in practice a couple of days ago. And I think it's a hand. But anyway, I still would like to see them go get a guy. Like, if you like Price, you can get him to the practice squad. I feel like the one place where they're tempting fate really badly is there. And that bobble was a fair catch. And it was not good. Like, I was sitting there and I said, this is what I don't want to see. Because on opening night in Chicago, more wind. I don't know if that's great. So I am not comfortable at all at punt return. I think Miles Price might have a future there. Do I want to give him the job immediately? I'd prefer to have Brandon Powell just catch the damn ball.
Yeah, that still seems like that's a lever that they can pull pretty easily if Brandon Powell wants to keep playing football, right? He's not that old. It's like 28, 29 years old. So you have that option in your back pocket. We also may have had some clarity on the ferocious punter battle that's been taking place all summer long here.
How about this?
Oscar Chapman bobbled the hold on a 55-yard missed field goal. At first you thought, boy, old big leg Bill kind of shanked that one, right? Are we back to having a kicking problem here? He missed in the duel of 63-yard field goals. He blinked last night.
And then they showed the replay.
But they showed the close-up of the hold, and old Oscar Chapman. It looked like a great snap right in the pocket there, and he just kind of nervously fumbled it. So that's the type of thing that could cost you a neck-and-neck battle for the punter role, Judd.
Oh, yeah, I think it's done. Again, special teams-wise, if that doesn't scare you. And it's weird because, so Chapman struggled a little bit in practice holding. Reichert struggles, to go back to when I talked about the panic alarm for him, was with Chapman holding in practice. So then Will hit 4 of 4, but 3 of them were Chapman holding against the Patriots. So that was good. I figured, okay, it's cleaned up. But yeah, that bobble, when they showed the replay, I couldn't find an excuse for it. Like, it wasn't like the snap was off or anything like that. He literally just didn't spot the ball down. Can't have that. I think the competition is done because of that.
Yeah.
There's been too many instances where his holding is just suspect enough.
It's very sad, though, when, that's be a tough pill to swallow when you're trying to lay your head down to sleep at night. You think all the work that I did all summer long to put myself in this battle to get a starting NFL punter job, and it all goes out the window because I bobbled a hold. The holding job is such a terrible byproduct of being a punter. But it's either a backup quarterback or a punter who gets that job. And there is absolutely no celebrating that job. Like, no one is ever, unless there's a really bad snap and they do a great job. But that's the thing. You're not expected to do a great job on that because the snapper is to blame if he rolls one back to you. So it's a bonus if you make a good thing out of it.
It's a hard job.
But you're gonna do that over 100 times, including like field goals and touchdowns in a regular season, and you can't miss any of them. It's a super high pressure, stressful job that we don't even think about.
And it's funny, I've always been a little bit of a fan, and I don't know, the Vikings used to do this. I don't know if teams still do on a regular basis because I don't look at holder depth charts. But I've always been more of a fan of your backup quarterback doing it because I feel like their hands are better.
Yeah.
A punter catches the ball and literally just drop kicks it, right? So it's been my opinion that, like, if I want an athlete and a guy with good hands, I think if you train Max Brosmer to hold, he would be a good, solid holder who has better hands. And also, quarterbacks should be used to the pressure. Like, punters they're very one skill set. And I'm not saying that there's not pressure in punting, there is. But, when you're talking about, okay, you got to have the hand-eye coordination, you got to get the ball down, seam the laces out, all that good stuff. I think I'd rather have my backup quarterback assigned to that task.
Yeah, I don't hate that theory. So, but Oscar Chapman, it was a fun run. All your different Australian punting
He'll
angles.
stick around because he's got that what's called player pathway exception. Because
the international. So he can be on the practice squad, basically.
I think he doesn't count against the 17-man practice squad, but he can just be stashed there, which I guess you'd just work on his holding for all of 2025.
Yeah, I know you have to bolt here because you're doing a Judd's Hockey Show at the Minnesota State Fair today. But so I have one more thing for you on the Adam Thielen front in a moment. It's kind of the latest on what the compensation might be.
Yeah.
So, but hey, if for the men of Purple Daily out there, there is a massive need for organ donors in the state of Minnesota right now. In fact, 2,000 people in Minnesota are on a wait list for a life-saving transplant. And I mean, any of us could wind up being one of those 2,000 people at some point, or someone close to us, a close family member, friend, whatever it may be. By the way, there's 100,000 people nationwide waiting for a transplant, and the majority of these people are actually men. So there's 4 ways to register as a donor. On your driver's license, when you either apply or renew, you can check the donor box. You can go online at life-source.org, or in the iPhone health app, you can toggle it. Or even when purchasing a hunting or fishing license online, any of those ways are ways to register as a donor and help save one of the 2,000 lives that are on a list in Minnesota waiting for a life-saving transplant. So there's the Star Tribune is reporting that A, the Vikings and Panthers are actively in discussions about Adam Thielen, and B, the Vikings are discussing a day 3 draft pick for Thielen. I have seen a couple other, I don't know where this came from, but there's a couple like corners of the football internet that are saying the Panthers are maybe asking for a 3rd round pick.
Yeah, that's what's out there this morning. Yeah, no, not going to happen.
But that's like, okay, you're gonna start there, right? Give us a 3rd. You really want a 5th instead of a 6th, and so you ask for a 3rd, and maybe it winds up being a 5th round pick, which feels like a little bit of an overpay, but you're trying to win a bunch of games this year, and you need to win early on your schedule because you're going to be favored early. So I would be willing to overpay a little bit for Thielen because he can jump right into the system, and I do still think he has some gas left in the tank. But a 3rd is absurd.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess the one question, and I do not know the answer to this, is because the Panthers wide receiver room is stacked. What I don't know is how important he's considered. Like, is he considered important to Bryce Young? Is he considered important? Because, sometimes we completely sort of dismiss or forget about a player's importance in the building or in a certain room. In this case, the wide receivers, and it extends to the quarterback a bit. Yeah. So I don't know what Carolina puts as a value on that. But yeah, the Vikings, if it's Thielen, great. But there is no question that by, I think at some point in the next couple of days, the Vikings need to obtain. I mean, we've seen that. You just don't. It's not that you've got question marks to me. If you assume that Naylor is going to join Addison on the sideline for week 1, so Jefferson is, and by the way, Jefferson coming off a hamstring is your guy. You got nothing behind him. Like, unless you've seen something. Lucky Jackson, I liked for the first part of camp, but he's a Jag. He's a guy. I just haven't seen anybody, in my opinion, move the needle. And if Felton's hand is goofed up now, and I'm not saying he was an answer, but that makes it worse. You need to go get at least 1, if not 2, wide receivers.
Also, it's kind of funny. We sit here, and even throughout this episode, and we chastise the Vikings and Kwesi for whiffing on so many draft picks. But then when it comes down to like giving up one of those, let's call it a day 3 pick, it's like, I don't know. Then we get all stingy. Well, part of the reason why you maneuver your way through these various trades in the draft, you trade back and pick up a next year's 6th round pick or whatever it is, or you work the comp pick system by saying goodbye to guys like Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold, signing players like Hargrave and Jonathan Allen who don't count toward the equation, and so you play that game in your favor to get an extra 4. Yes. If you get 3 extra picks next year, you have 9 or 10 draft picks. Part of the reason why you play that game is so that when injuries inevitably happen,
Yep.
you can ship a 5th or a 6th for an Adam Thielen and not feel the pain of it. Unlike some of the years where it's like, man, they only have 4 picks. You can't trade 25% of your stash for a 35-year-old receiver. They are in a great spot with depth of draft picks to just flick one over to the Carolina Panthers to solve this problem.
I don't think the Harrison Phillips trade to the Jets for a couple of 6th-round picks next year and the year after that, I don't think that was made with the intention of keeping those picks.
Correct.
Like, it's not we got a 6th-round pick.
Keeping them, nailing the pick. Oh, we're going to find the next Josh Metellus with this pick.
Like, I think that was a means to an end, which is going to end with, I would guess, a receiver. But I would, again, I would keep an eye out on cornerback a little bit, too. I feel like we obsessed about it and then just sort of dismissed it and forgot about it. And I haven't seen enough to be completely comfortable there. And look, the pressure should be good. It should help the secondary. But you also need guys that can cover.
Yeah. All right, that's a wrap on the preseason. That's a wrap on our episode recapping the 3rd preseason game. Max Brosmer balling out the entire summer, and we will see where that lands him when the 53-man roster, at least the initial one, is solidified on Tuesday of this week. And then they could go through and claim players, and it might change between Tuesday and week 1. Monday at the Minnesota State Fair, Score North Twin Show from noon to 1, Purple Daily from 1 to 2, and then the O-line committee, Alex Boone and Jeremiah Searles, will be in the house from 2 until 3:30ish. So a big day at the Score North podcast booth at the Minnesota State Fair. You can find a map and a full schedule of everything we're doing out there all throughout the week next week at scorenorth.com/fair. Judd's heading out there right now for a special Judd's Hockey Show with Jesse Pierce and some Minnesota hockey luminaries as well.
Bob Motzko and Phil Housley.
Yeah, a couple legends. So you have fun out there, and I'll catch you on our text thread and then see you in the audience back at the Minnesota State Fair on Monday. Purple Daily, where we just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.